She handed me the baby, said I can't do this, and walked out the door in her wedding dress, 3 years after the wedding. What she didn't know is that I'd already found the divorce papers she'd hidden in her gym bag 2 weeks earlier. And I'd already made my move. By the end of this video, you're going to watch a man lose everything he thought mattered, his wife, his house, his reputation in his own family, and use every single piece of that wreckage to build something his ex-wife and her new boyfriend never saw coming. This isn't a story about getting even. It's a story about what happens when you stop begging someone to love you and start building a life so good they can't stand watching it from the outside. Stick around, because the ending of this one is going to make you want to hug your kids a little tighter. My name's Daniel. I was 34 years old, and up until that Tuesday morning, I thought I had a pretty normal life. Suburban house outside Columbus, Ohio. A daughter, Mia, who'd just turned 1. A wife, Rachel, who I'd been with for 8 years, married for 3. I worked in logistics, boring job, good pay, the kind of job that lets you coach Little League someday. Rachel had gone back to work part-time after Mia was born, some marketing gig downtown. Things had felt distant for a few months, sure. Less talking. More phones. But you tell yourself that's just what happens when you've got a 1-year-old. You tell yourself a lot of things. That Tuesday, I came home early because a client meeting got cancelled. And Rachel was standing in the kitchen in her wedding dress. Not a metaphor. The actual dress, zipped halfway, mascara running down her face. She looked at me and said 4 words I will never forget: I can't do this. Now here's the part that's going to make you lean in a little closer. Because I wasn't shocked. Not really. See, 2 weeks before that morning, I'd been looking for a suitcase in the garage and found a gym bag that didn't belong to a gym. Divorce paperwork. Half filled out. A lawyer's business card paperclipped to the front page. I hadn't said a word. I just started paying attention. But nothing, could have prepared me for what she said next, standing there in that dress. Because it wasn't just that she was leaving me. Quick question before we go further: if you found out your spouse had been planning their exit for months while you were still planning anniversary dinners, would you confront them immediately? Or would you do what I did, and just watch? Drop it in the comments, because what I chose to do next is the reason this channel exists. Rachel wiped her face and said the second thing, the thing that actually broke something in me. She said, "Marcus is picking me up. I already talked to a lawyer. You'll get Mia on weekends." Marcus. My best friend since college. The guy who'd been at our wedding. The guy who'd held Mia in the hospital hallway 4 hours after she was born because I was too shaky to hold her myself. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I did. I stood in my own kitchen, in my work clothes, holding my daughter's diaper bag, and processed that my wife and my best friend had been building an exit plan together for, I'd find out later, almost 7 months. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't beg. Something in me went very, very quiet. And in that quiet, I made a decision that would define the next 2 years of my life. I was not going to fight Rachel for anything she wanted to leave with. I was going to let her have every single thing she thought she wanted. Because I already understood something she didn't. She thought she was walking toward freedom. She had no idea she was walking away from the only person who was ever going to actually protect her from what came next. I want to pause the story here and tell you what I did in the first 48 hours, because this is the part people skip when they tell revenge stories, and it's actually the most important part. I called a lawyer that same night. Not to fight for the house. Not to fight for alimony leverage. I called to understand exactly, to the letter, what Ohio custody law said about a father who showed up, stayed sober, kept a steady job, and documented everything. Then I did something Rachel never expected. I started keeping a journal. Every text she sent. Every missed pickup. Every time Marcus's name came up in a conversation with Mia's daycare. I wasn't building a smear campaign. I was building a record. Because here's a truth nobody tells you going into family court: the parent who shows up with proof wins. The parent who shows up with feelings loses. And Rachel? Rachel was about to give me 2 years of proof, because she had no idea I was even watching. Here's a fact that might surprise you: in cases where one parent moves out for a new relationship within the first year of separation, custody evaluators statistically weigh stability far more heavily than either parent's income. Rachel didn't know that. I did. And that one piece of information was about to become the foundation of everything. The divorce took 11 months. Rachel moved in with Marcus after 90 days, didn't even wait for the ink to dry. She took the furniture she wanted, half the savings, and left me the house, mostly because Marcus's condo was cozier, in her words. I didn't fight her on the furniture. I didn't fight her on the split. My lawyer thought I was insane. "You're leaving money on the table," he told me. I told him I wasn't after money. I was after Tuesdays. Wednesdays. Every other weekend, and every single holiday I could get in writing. Because here's what I understood that Rachel didn't: money runs out. But a father who never misses a single pickup, who never raises his voice in front of his daughter, who documents every single interaction with a calm, boring, professional consistency, that father becomes undeniable in a courtroom. Rachel, meanwhile, was busy building a very different record. She missed 2 supervised visits because of work. She brought Mia back from a weekend 40 minutes late, twice, smelling like she'd been at a bar. And Marcus, sweet, charming Marcus, started showing up to pickups instead of Rachel, which my lawyer quietly noted every single time. I wasn't sabotaging her. I want to be really clear about that. I was simply the only person in that whole situation who kept showing up exactly the same, week after week, while everyone around me was busy proving they couldn't. There's a moment I have to tell you about, because it's the moment that changed how the entire custody case went. Mia was 2.5 by now. Old enough to talk, not old enough to understand what she was saying mattered. One night after a weekend at Rachel and Marcus's place, she was in her bath and she said, out of nowhere, "Mommy and Marcus yell about money." I didn't ask a single follow-up question. I wrote it down, word for word, with the date, the same way I'd been writing everything down for over a year. My lawyer later explained that a 2-year-old's unprompted statement, documented immediately and consistently, can carry real weight with a guardian ad litem, the court-appointed advocate assigned to represent Mia's interests. That same month, the guardian ad litem did a home visit. My house, clean, structured, Mia's room decorated, bedtime routine posted on the fridge like a joke between us that had become real life. Rachel and Marcus's place, moving boxes still unpacked after 8 months, an argument audible from the driveway during the scheduled visit. I didn't orchestrate that argument. I didn't need to. I'd simply spent a year building a life so stable that contrast did all the work for me. Now here's where the story takes a turn nobody in my family saw coming, including me. Because 3 weeks after that home visit, I got a phone call that had nothing to do with custody, and everything to do with the rest of my life. Stay with me, because this is where revenge stops being the point of the story. The call was from Mia's daycare director, a woman named Priya. Not about Mia, about a job. Priya mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that the center's operations manager had just quit, and did I know anyone in logistics who might want a completely different kind of challenge, one that came with actual daylight hours and weekends mostly free. I laughed. Told her I might actually be interested myself. Here's the thing about hitting rock bottom the way I had: losing your marriage, your best friend, half your savings, in less than a year. It strips away every assumption you had about what your life was supposed to look like. I'd spent 8 years building a career I was fine at but never loved, in a marriage that had quietly been ending for longer than I wanted to admit. Now I had nothing left to protect. So I took the interview. I got the job. Took a 12% pay cut and gained something I hadn't had in years, actual time with my daughter that wasn't scheduled around someone else's convenience. And at that daycare, twice a week, dropping off and picking up Mia, I kept running into another single parent. A mother named Elena, picking up her son Theo, who was in Mia's class. We didn't fall into anything dramatic. It was smaller than that, and slower, the kind of thing that sneaks up on you specifically because you're not looking for it. Elena had her own story. Husband left when Theo was 8 months old, moved across the country, sent money when he remembered to. She'd been doing it alone for almost 3 years by the time I met her, and there was something in the way she talked to Mia, patient, unhurried, the exact opposite of the chaos I'd been living in, that made me pay attention in a way I hadn't paid attention to anyone in a long time. For months, it was just coffee in the daycare parking lot. Then it was Theo and Mia having a joint birthday party because their birthdays landed 4 days apart. Then it was Elena showing up, unprompted, on the night before my final custody hearing, with dinner for me and Mia because she knew I'd forget to eat. I want to be honest with you about something, because this channel isn't interested in fairy tales. I wasn't looking to replace what I lost. I was looking to become someone worth being around again, for Mia's sake first, and it turned out that process made me someone Elena wanted to be around too. That's a very different thing than revenge. That's rebuilding. You'd think this is where the story gets easy. It doesn't. Because 2 weeks before my final custody hearing, Rachel found out about Elena, and she did something I genuinely did not see coming, even after everything. Rachel called me, furious, and accused me of moving on to look good for the judge. Said I'd been playing a long game the entire time, the calm dad routine, the documentation, all of it, just to win a custody battle and make her look unstable in comparison. Here's the uncomfortable truth I told her on that call, and I'm telling you now, she wasn't entirely wrong about the outcome. She was completely wrong about the intention. I never once stayed calm to win a case. I stayed calm because screaming at my daughter's mother in front of my daughter was never going to make me the father I wanted to be. The custody case just happened to reward the version of myself I was building for an entirely different reason. Rachel and Marcus split up 2 months later, the daycare pickups, the missed weekends, the stress of a case going badly, it all caught up to them the way instability always eventually does. She called me, this time not furious, just tired, and asked if we could figure out something better than fighting. We did. Not because I forgave everything overnight. But because Mia deserved 2 parents who could sit in the same room without it costing her something. Final custody agreement, 50-50, structured, respectful. Rachel rebuilt her own life eventually, got back into her career, moved into her own place, started actually showing up consistently, maybe because she finally had to, without Marcus or me to lean on. Me. I married Elena 18 months after that final hearing. Small ceremony, just family, Mia and Theo as the world's most chaotic ring bearers. I still work at that daycare-adjacent logistics job. Turns out a pay cut for a life you actually recognize as yours is the best trade I ever made. And here's the part one think about the most, the part one want to leave you with. I never once tried to destroy Rachel. I never bought into the version of revenge that means burning someone's life down out of spite. My revenge, if you want to call it that, was becoming so stable, so present, so undeniably good at the one job that actually mattered, that the life I built without her became the loudest answer to everything she thought she was walking away from. That's the whole lesson. You don't have to destroy the person who hurt you. You just have to become someone their absence can't slow down. If this story hit you somewhere real, you need to watch what happens in our next video, where a single dad doesn't just rebuild his life, he finds out, 3 years later, that his ex-wife's new husband has been lying to her about something that puts their kids directly at risk. That one goes to a place this story never even hints at. Click it right now, because you are not ready for how that one ends. And if you're a parent watching this who's rebuilding right now, alone, at 11 p.m., scrolling through videos like this one, I see you. Keep going. Hit subscribe, because Vengeful Patriarch is just getting started.